been 77 years since one of the worst winter storms plagued the state of Idaho. Blizzards left people stranded, drivers stuck in the snow. One newspaper reported a doctor had to be accompanied by a snowplow crew in Rupert to make it to the home of a woman who needed to deliver her baby. A sharp contrast to the quiet start we've seen this season. Adrielle Tackett looks back at a winter season that brought the state to a standstill.
The year was 1948, and Idaho was ill-equipped for the winter that was about to hit.
Reports indicated that the snow was so compacted because of just the constant dumping of precipitation that they had to use explosives to clear it.
A devastating winter for the entire region.
Idaho was not alone in experiencing extremely high snowfall, frigid temperatures, and high winds. The winter of 1948 and 1949 is remembered by those who might still be alive, and of course by historic records as one of the worst in Idaho history.
The storm started in November, which is early in the season, and from there never loosened its grip. State historian Hannah Lori Hine says for 13 weeks, snow fell across the region.
The worst storm, however, happened in February of 1949, and that's really where we start to see snowfall accumulation that was untenable.
The snow measured in feet, winds gusted up to 40 miles per hour, and temperatures dropped to 20 to 30 below.
You don't have the opportunity to recover from one storm before the next one hit.
Roads vanished, trains stopped, and people were running out of heat.
Moscow was 3 days away from being completely out of coal. And so if that city would have lost all of its coal, they wouldn't have been able to heat homes.
Without roads or rail, supplies dwindled and consequences were deadly.
Across the entire western region, there were upwards of 150 deaths. And that came from maybe home fires where they were trying to burn items to keep their homes heated.
It also came from exposure.
People who might have gotten stuck somewhere outside and ran out of gas, or they froze to death.
The agricultural impact was devastating too. Livestock couldn't reach food buried under feet of snow and ice.
Hundreds of thousands of animals perished because of the lack of food that they could forage for.
With roads impassable, sometimes the only avenue for help was from above. The National Guard stepped in to help across the region.
They would drop in supplies. And even in trying to use that as a solution, the airdrops, you also faced challenges in taking off because the snow was so deep.
Families on the ground, including children, were left to make sense of the storm in their own way.
And even though it was hard, but I had an overall feeling of enjoying the time playing in the snow, and just like any kid would, I think.
Lanny Ames was a 13-year-old from Hayburn.
I lived on a dairy farm, a small family-owned dairy farm, and my dad was worried about the milk truck coming to pick up our milk.
He remembers working through this winter.
He contrived a small sled that would carry 4 10-gallon milk cans on it, which is pretty heavy.
He, his dad, and his brother pulled it for miles across snow-piled fields.
The snow was drifted so high, we didn't even have to go through gates. We just over the fence lines with the sled.
Lanny is one of many who remember that winter. When the city of Rupert shared photos online, countless personal stories followed. My dad hooked an old scraper backwards to a team of horses to get to the canal bank, to get a truck to take my mom into town so I could be born. Thanks. And we had a family member that died trying to go out and find the cattle. He never came back. Went to try and find him, had froze out there. It left behind damage to families and the community.
The Division of Public Roads within the Department of Public Works made repairs to more than 1,300 miles of roads in Idaho.
Even the federal government stepped in.
Immediate emergency relief, nearly $200,000, which in today's money is about $2.7 million.
The snow didn't just bury roads, it exposed the need for a better system. The state ran a study to determine if a standalone highway department would be something beneficial, which changed Idaho for the better.
So in 1950, this study resulted in legislation that created the Idaho Highway Department, which is the precursor to today's Idaho Transportation Department.
The winter of 1948-49 did more than freeze Idaho. It changed how the state prepared, how it built, and how it responded to extreme weather. For those who lived it, it's a memory from 3/4 of a century ago. For Idaho, it was a turning point. And Hunter, this was not just a crazy storm for Idaho. It was the West overall, but there was a delegate to Congress at the time, John C. Sanborn. He was a legislator here from the Magic Valley, and he is a big reason that Idaho was able to get aid from the federal government because he advocated that for that at a federal level.
I mean, it's incredible to think that that department wasn't there and around during this time. I remember living through a pretty severe storm when I was a child growing up in Idaho, but again, not as severe as this.
No.
Did you ever go through anything that serious?
No, not in my lifetime,
Yes.
for sure. And I think that it's incredible that we can hear direct stories from people who have lived them. So keep sharing them, please, because we love to hear them.
Yeah, we have some viewer comments. We'll get to that at the end of the show. Thank you. Incredible history there.